something wrong here. Let's go and poke it with a stick. Oh yeah, this one I'm just going to straight up quote because I love this episode a lot. It's been way too long since I've rewatched this one. Amy's Choice. Oh, so good. There's so much that I love about this. And I like it even more now, knowing what it kind of indicates about Rory and Amy's relationship. And part of me was nervous to rewatch this because I was like, is stuff that goes on with them later going to feel betrayed? Is this going to feel betrayed by stuff that I know is later? Like, no, this is totally consistent. The arc of their relationship as a couple. And again, I'll probably touch back on this as I continue my rewatch to see if there are hiccups that I don't remember. But the arc of their relationship, I think, is really solid across the run of these two characters. So that's phenomenal. Matt Smith, he's got so many great lines in this. And I love him flustered, which is very much what he is here. Like they see the cold star that they might crash into. He's going, I don't know everything. Why does everyone expect me to know everything? I love him getting flustered and aggravated. And that's part of what the whole is, because this is the episode that opens in Upper Ledworth, sorry. Where 5 years later, from the last time we saw them, Amy and Rory settle down. Amy's pregnant. They're going to have their first kid. Rory's a doctor. It's, nice local community. Everybody lives to a nice, ripe old age. And the doctor shows up. And they kind of catch up. And then something's off. And something dangerous is going on here. And then they keep flashing back to the TARDIS, where they are rapidly approaching a cold star. Whereas most stars radiate heat, this one radiates cold. And they're going to freeze to death because the TARDIS is dead and is drifting towards this thing. And in both, they're being tormented by Toby Jones as the Dream Lord, who says to them that one of these realities is fake and the other is real. Meaning that one of these dangers is going to kill them. But they have to figure out which one and allow themselves to die in the fake reality. But if they guess wrong, then they're dead. First of all, that's a great fun premise. Getting to jump back and forth between these two concepts, which neither of... This is also like a really good use of ideas, because neither of these ideas, either the threat in the, on Earth in Upper Ledworth of these aging people who are secretly housing aliens, and those are dangerous. That neither that nor the TARDIS drifting towards a cold star is really enough to sustain a full episode on its own. But it'll sustain half an episode just nicely. And it jumps back and forth perfectly. And I feel like that's worth pointing out, because there have been instances during this rewatch where there have been subplots that annoyed me. Not because that they were bad, but because I'm like, that could have sustained an entire episode, but it's not getting its due because it has to share space with everything else. Like the example off the top of my head is Gridlock, which is an episode I like a lot. The whole idea of the moods just being sold, that people can just buy happy or forget or bliss and what have you, or sleep. I feel like that concept in a society, and what would happen to a society that had this stuff freely available, could have been its own episode. And it is integrated into that story, but that is a story primarily about this epic level traffic jam where people are stuck on the motorway for years and decades and generations. And this other idea about, moods as drugs has to be a subplot, when I honestly think that could have been its own thing. Here, I love that both of these subplots are simple enough that you wouldn't want to try and make a whole episode out of that alone. So that's terrific. Toby Jones is such a brilliant reflection of Matt Smith's Doctor, because where Matt Smith is charming, Toby Jones is smarmy. Where Matt Smith has a sense of authority, Toby Jones has a sense of sinister threat. It's vaguely in the same, but it's just twisted. It's not a mirror opposite. It's not like he is everything the Doctor is. Like, no, he is a lot of what the Doctor is, just slightly twisted. It's like taking the characterization of Matt Smith's Doctor and looking at it through a funhouse mirror. You can still identify everything, but it's like, that's the wrong shape. That's not quite right. And I do think the Dream Lord is a character who needs to be brought back. I don't care how. Figure out how. It's Doctor Who. You can think of ways to bring him back. Please, somebody, bring him back. Because he's so good. And I mentioned the relationship between Amy and Rory. That is a huge thing here. Because this story is important in the arc of Amy's relationship, not only with Rory, but with the Doctor. Because it's been an open question since she left with the Doctor, and we realized that, Rory was waiting to marry her. What does she want? And if she truly ever has to choose only one of them, what will she choose? And we see her make that choice under the best circumstances for us to believe that this is sincerely her choice. That it's not the choice she thinks she should make, or the choice she's making in the heat, the heat of an exciting adventure, but no, when the chips are down, this or this, you can't have both. What do you go with? She makes the choice. And it's the perfect circumstances to put her in that, where she makes the choice to choose, spoiler, if you haven't seen the episode, Rory. And I actually found myself getting choked up a little bit in the conversation in the TARDIS after they wake up, where Rory says, well, wait a minute, how did you know that wasn't the real world? When you decided to die in that one and be here. And she's like, I didn't. And it dawns on him what that means, that he had died there. And she couldn't accept that as being the real world, because if he was dead, she didn't want to be there. And the weight of that, and his relief and joy of whatever doubts he had about this woman's love for him, which would have been very legitimate, because as he himself points out, you ran away with another man the night before our wedding. You watch that wash out of him. It's an amazing performance. The two of them have such sweet, sweet chemistry, which is really tough to do, given that Karen Gillan also has to sell that sense of restlessness, that sense of needing a more than just, a quiet home life, which clearly Rory would be very happy in. So for her to be able to sell that, while at the same time having a strong enough connection to somebody who obviously would tie her down, and to sell that relationship without feeling like it's holding her back. This team, this trio, while Matt Smith is not my favorite Doctor, Amy is not my favorite companion, Rory is not my favorite companion, the three of them together, I do think are my favorite TARDIS team that we've had in modern era Doctor Who. Because the dynamic is so finely tuned, and it has much more development over time. It's not that the relationships between the three of them actually change all that much, but the way in which things happen and circumstances happen where the audience gets affirmations as to exactly what this dynamic is are really well paced across the life of these characters on the show. So it's not that the relationship between Amy and Rory changes all that much from when Amy starts traveling with the Doctor to the end of their time together. It changes a little, and there's little bits, and there's nuances here and there, but it's not a massive shift in the relationship. It's not like what happened with Rose and Mickey, where it completely changed. But there is just moments and episodes like this that give you this insight into what makes them tick as a couple. And the pace at which those sorts of episodes happen, and the episodes themselves where we get that information, are really, really well done. This is a phenomenal episode. It is fun. It is touching. It is exciting. It's got terrific performance. I mean, it's basically a four-hander. I mean, we technically have, supporting cast because we've got, the killer old people. And, here was a cool touch that I hadn't noticed before. The Doctor from the very beginning is insisting that the Ledworth reality is not real and that the TARDIS is. He insists that from the get-go. And yet, in Ledworth, he gets in this car and he keeps stopping the car to pile in people to help them get away. Even in a reality that he doesn't believe, he still stops to help people who probably aren't real. I love that. I never caught that before. That never clicked for me before that was what he was doing. Because again, from the get-go, he's like, one of these realities is false. It's that one. That one's a rubbish reality. I don't believe that for an instant. But he still stops to help people in a reality he doesn't even think is real. Yes! I feel like that says almost everything about the Doctor right there. It's so good, and the dynamic and the tension between the characters as the scene and the tension builds is so excellent. And like I said, the Doctor getting flustered, all of them getting flustered, because it's a situation that won't stay still. They could deal with either one of these, but it won't stay put. It keeps yanking them back and forth, and everybody the whole thing builds, and then it has a wonderful emotional based climax, which at this point in my life, I appreciate emotional climaxes a bit more than I appreciate action climaxes. And to emotionally pivot it on Rory dying for the first time, and Amy's decision to commit herself to be with him, possibly at the risk of dying herself, that's awesome. Great villain. Great story, great dynamic, great relationships, great episode. I love this thing. I really, really, really do. Amy's Choice. You rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's a bunch of stuff down there to do as well because there's buttons and links. You can like and subscribe. You can support me on Patreon. Even as little as $1 a month is a big help and gets you access to things such as the ability to vote on topics or see the docket for the upcoming month. Plus, a bunch of other links down there besides. My social medias, Instagram and Twitter, and link to the book I wrote, and blah, 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 blah. All down in the description. Click on them. Or don't. You don't have to, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.